Take your sorrow and turn it into anger. Zeon thirsts for the strength of its people. Hey everybody, welcome back to another Stone Face Reactions. I'm Theta, this is Lessons, and we are back with another episode of Mobile Suit Gundam. I believe this is probably the episode I've been waiting the longest to get to. Look, even before, I don't think I mentioned this when we first started recording these. Before everything, there's one thing that I knew from Mobile Suit Gundam. Andrew WK does an amazing English version of it. I've seen the original voice actor dressed up in a military uniform doing it at live, like, I wouldn't say rallies, but that's not the way to say that. Events, anime events.
Yeah.
I have in my head, wadi wadi wa, constantly. But, happens this episode, and kind of always waiting for it. Also, there's a very funny speech regarding, not speech, very funny analogy for Giran, I believe, happens this episode, which kind of makes me a little bit not so pleased I had myself drawn as him, but kind of it's not really drawn as him. I'm using his uniform because he's like the supreme leader of Zeon, as it were, and I really wanted myself dressed up in those duds.
Well, the real supreme leader, as opposed to his father, who is the figurehead of...
Well, there is the whole breakdown of the, I don't know what you call it, symbology, or etymology, emblemology. I don't know if that's even a word. The markings on the uniforms of like admirals and above in the Zeon military, because at a certain level you get into the black uniforms, and then it's like little lines, and those little lines denote if you're like an admiral or above. And Giran's has like the ultimate level of all of that. Yeah. So obviously, I'm going to say I'm not Giran anymore if Giran stops showing up, and I'm like, whatever, whoever's like at that rank from there on, what have you. But anyway, big old tangent. What happened last time?
What happened? I don't know. A lot of stuff happened last time. It was episode 11, Iselina. Iselina swears to avenge Garma and joins the pursuit of the White Base. The Gundam and Guncannon leap into the Gauls to attack them, but Char's Lugan recon plane bombs the White Base in midair and causes it to lose propulsion. In the midst of this, Iselina sees the Gundam. She gathers all her bitterness over Garma's death and tries to ram the Gundam with a gaw. But okay, that's the wiki version, or the crunchyroll version of it. She not only tries to ram it, she actually participates in the battle. And not only that, we have a situation where the civilians take the opportunity, because the White Base is grounded, to just get out and go into the desert. Char also gets out of his recon plane and doesn't deploy his mobile suit, and shoots a couple of civilians, which drives the civilian back.
I don't think he has it. The recon plane, because we see how the recon planes about him open up, and that's where we made not the joke, but we made the observation, And that would, like in the transport shuttle that Dren flies down from the Falmer, that would have been where his mobile suit would have been. So I think that's what he has, is just the ship or plane.
And eventually what happens is that the Gundams manage to defeat the Gauls, which are 3 of them, but they don't have fighter cover because of the losses, which is an interesting point we didn't make before. Like, oh, why don't we have fighters? Well, because we lost all of them in the last couple of combat, right? It's not the Valkyrie situation in Macross was like, oh, we have more Valkyries. Like, where? We just have them.
A Star Trek Voyager level of them.
Yes. So, that's a good, nice note. And and eventually they lose the battle. Char retreats and says, well, it just happens I couldn't help because I wasn't in my mobile suit. My mobile suit was in the shop, I guess. It's like, okay, that's the story we're going with.
Something else we didn't cover last time, since we're covering things that we didn't cover. The conversation with the zombies about blaming Char for Garma's death. Garma's death.
Yeah. And basically Dulce says, okay, I'm just going to demote him, right? That's what I'm going to do. Which it's interesting because it shows that Char is a hero. I mean, he's also somebody who's already become very famous, not only within the military, but probably to the civilians. So getting rid of him completely might be a problem. He's just in that sweet spot where he can get demoted, but not in a place where it's like, and they're blaming him for not assisting him enough to win the battle, rather than directly affecting
that he was the ranking soldier in the field at which Garma died, and the ranking surviving soldier. So blame is transitioning to him. That's not how I'm sorry. I'm regarding what you just said, not what I just said. That's not what I regard that at all. That he's too important to get rid of. I read it more of as Degwin is just tired. This is Degwin's, not PTSD, but Degwin's.
Yeah.
Because we've been seeing him, and I've been asserting that Degwin doesn't want this war. Degwin wants to be done with it. He wants to negotiate peace, but Giran is constantly about that. We'll negotiate peace when we are at our best position possible, preferably when they're all dead. But Degwin is just done with the death, and now that it's hit him directly, I don't want to make people pay. I'm not about this vengeance life. I just want to be done with it. Demote him. Let's be done. I want a personal family funeral. Please stop making me go through this.
But actually, it's Cecilia who says to Dulce, he's within your command structure. You deal with it, right? And he's like, oh, well, I guess we can demote him, and that becomes a decision, right? He's like, he throws that idea. It's like,
because Giran keeps saying, make a decision. So he's like figuring out which of these things to do. And again, the idea that I know I keep throwing out that he's a pedophile, but the also idea that he's not as horrible as the rest of his family. Because when shown evidence, okay, let's break Rebel out of prison, and we can use him to start the negotiation process to end the war. Let's not fight anymore, Giran. We need to stop this. I don't want to kill some random soldier who may or may not have had done something to do with my son's death. I don't want any more death on my hands. He is that guy, which isn't the big evil that you might get if you just read the broad stroke of what the show is. You would think he is that fascist guy, but I got what I wanted. Please, let's stop killing people.
Yeah. He's also from the older generation, the ones that were the dreamers and ideals about getting independence. That was their goal, right? To get independence.
The problem is that he comes off as the Stalin to Zeon's Lenin, right? That I'm going to get power. I'm in the party, but I really would like that power.
Yeah, but it's really Giran who is the one who was pushing forward. Like, no, in fact, his father calls him then, Hitler. You're like Hitler. You're willing to kill, millions or whatever. He literally uses that word in Origins. It's like you are going to be like Hitler, right? You're playing that role, and he's like, it doesn't matter. We're superior anyway, right?
I wish you hadn't brought that up.
Yeah,
I wish you hadn't. I know, but I've lampshaded something that happened later this episode, which I would have liked to have not brought that up, so that lampshade would have been paid off a little bit more. So
yeah, so there's that, and so there's this family's like, okay, just blame it on Char. We're gonna do that. But Giran keeps pushing. No, we need to have a public funeral. We need to have a public funeral. We need to have the situation where he was beloved by the people, right? And we know that the Sabis, as a family at least, still have a lot of backing from the people. I mean, that's why they are the rulers, right? That's how they were able to position themselves as the autocrats.
Well, remember, Garma is the hero of the Dawn Rebellion. We had a little parade in the street where people celebrated him. So we know that he is a public figure of praise. So, yeah. He's not like the background zombie family members. Like, who's praising Kycelia other than knowing her name and maybe some younger pictures of her when she had better hairstyles?
And I think Kycelia is more figure to be feared rather than to be admired.
I don't know. There's the oddity of that episode of Origin that we had the Iron Cavalry show up with. God, I cannot remember his name. She kisses him, and he's like, "Can I wipe this off?" There's the element of he's clearly attracted to her, but more afraid of her than anything else, and rightfully so, because he fucks up once and gets killed.
Yeah.
To be fair, it was a big old fuck up. It was, should have.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. That if people who do know about her fear her more than they're attracted. That they're like, oh, she's a great hero. And it was like, yeah, she's the one we don't want to mess with, right? Probably the average civilian doesn't care. Oh, she's a member of the Sally family. She's the girl of the family. But people in the military, particularly, who know about her reputation, because it's, scuttlebutt. I mean, the part where they were expecting a grenade to come down the stairs. Like, yeah, that's how Cecilia works.
They weren't expecting. Yeah. I kept putting that out there because that's what I expected. Knowing Cecilia. Yeah. Who do you think is the second most feared zombie?
I think Giran, definitely.
But Giran pulls the strings behind the scenes. He's not directly responsible for everything by his own design. But at the same time, Dozle is a teddy bear, but a military commander.
But I think Dozle in Zeon, they will love him. He's a family man. Like, he has a wife and kids.
Well, so people salute him at the edge of their own death, as we saw from the Battle of Loom, right?
Yeah.
Glory to Zeon, glory to you, Commander, and boom, the ship explodes around the guy saying it. Though people love Dozle, and Dozle is bending rails under his hands, angry at the death of his own men. So
I think in Zeon he would be loved, but I think he would be completely loathed in the Federation. Because if anybody remember that he was a commander-in-chief of the fleet during Operation British.
He also gave all that time to saluting the dead of both sides. So I don't know.
How many people in the Federation would know that? People on his side would see it like, oh, he's an honorable man, a family man. He's a hero, right?
I don't know,
but in the Federation side,
if you did it once, the idea is you'd probably do it more than that. I don't know. And again, it's the act that Giran pulls behind the scene strings.
Yeah.
Versus Dozle being in front. Also, I wasn't anticipating I wasn't anticipating you bringing up Earth Federation's viewpoint. I meant from inside Zeon.
Yeah, but I think Giran is not so behind that scene because he's increasingly the guy who keeps. Well, we'll see here why that. I don't think that is.
Well, I mean, it's the difference between Degwin being the supreme leader, and I don't actually know Giran's official title, but Giran's like the mouthpiece, but Degwin is seen to be the leader. So if you were in that case, you'd be wondering, what does Giran do, right? If you were like an average person.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think he gets to be feared. I think he's just, he hasn't done anything toward the Zeon civilians, right?
Well, it's also that he gives other people the authority to do his plans. Dozle is responsible for Operation British, but Giran planned it and then gave the operation to Dozle. So, from everyone's perspective, Dozle's guilty. But Giran, that's what I'm saying. He's the puppeteer.
Yeah. So I think it depends on what people know and what people. I think clearly with Cecilia, at least within the military, we know that they're like, yeah, no, we don't want to mess with her. Outside of the military, maybe we don't know if Zeon has a secret police. I mean, they have a secret. They do have a intelligence organ. Clearly enough. How does that extend to be a true secret police? Well,
for sure it is. I mean, once we already covered the Comet last episode about how this was originally written during the height of the Cold War. So, obviously, if Zeon, despite some of their Germanic leanings, are the Soviets, then obviously we can see that Cecilia is the head of the KGB.
But again, the thing is that most of her actions are, so far, so I'm not, data rule, being directed at members of the military. And the KGB did that as well, by the way. The GRU is intelligence. It's complicated. They police the military, but they also had a civilian aspect, a face to it. And we really haven't seen agents outside of what they were, Raul and the girlfriend saying, "Oh, we, looking nervously at the stairs to see what happened."
Well, I mean, technically we have in that Smokey. Smokey would have been a civilian arm of that, and technically,
but he wasn't.
The people sent to kill T-Blow and gang would also be a civilian civilian operations.
Yes, but again, those were not directed at this. We're talking exclusively at the Zeon population, right?
We keep going back and forth. You started talking about Earth Federation people in regards to it, and like I was talking about
no.
Zeon, and now that I'm bringing up the other side, you're like, yeah, but if we're only talking about Zeon, we're going flip-flopping here.
I know. If we're talking about Zeon population only, not the military or the Federation, I'm sure the Federation intelligence service knows that she's, and maybe even rumors because of the death of Smokey have spread out that, the Zeons are bastards, and maybe she has something to do with it. So she actually might be feared outside of Zeon by the Federation if people connect her to these events. But if we go to popularity again inside the Zeon population,
example there,
it might be different.
The bar scene where they're going down there to arrest people. Yeah, I mean, because those are undercover, basically guys operating under her command to then go arrest, and then Tachi comes in to warn them about everything. Obviously, those are civilian operations being conducted against because it's on Munzo, the Zeon population.
Yeah.
So that is an example of her having an outstretched hand towards not just the military.
Oh yeah, she'd probably be the one that's feared, But everybody is, at least
Heyman says, well, if you want her, he's already been demoted 2 levels. If and he's under Dozel's command, and Dozel did that. If Kycelia wants to do something, Kycelia can come down here. Which, if she's still alive today, then obviously she's a badass.
So it's complicated. It's interesting, to say the least. Not complicated, it's interesting.
Well, it's point of view, right? That the world building is enough to the point that you could wonder about these things and come up with logical things, unlike, say, Macross 7, for example, where the world building is just enough to make you question literally everything that you see. Versus this, it's like, well, I kind of understand how the economy works, so I understand why this person would be out of work, and then thus put in the position of being a refugee on a ship who then wants to get back. Like, everything makes sense. It's framed on a world that works.
Yeah. Significant world building and things that interlock with each other. They haven't dropped the iceberg on us of world building, which would be too much. But they give us enough surface, and they're like,
they haven't done the Legends of the Galactic Heroes drop of world building. God, I can't wait for that world building to pay off. I can't wait till we tunnel out of this iceberg.
Yeah.
Oh, that's our fault. Well, that's my fault, I guess. But we are where we are. Yeah. Anything else you want to throw out there before we get into this episode?
I'm looking forward to this episode, which people who watched the last episode were like, yes, he's looking forward to this episode. He seems to be excited. Let's see what happens.
I would say it's my second favorite episode of Universal Century Gundam, probably. I don't know. It's hard to rank Origin against the original. Obviously, I think Dawn of Rebellion, to take the name of the episode, is my number 1 episode in all the episodes I know. But I think I also stated, even the first time I watched it, Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin, might be my number 1 Gundam series amongst all the Gundam series I've watched.
That's MS-A Team is right up there with me, so yeah.
That'd probably be my second, but I'm not going to spoil the fact that I saw that 20 years ago? I think it was 2004, and I only originally saw it when it first came out on Toonami, because Toonami was the first translation that it came out on TV.
And there's also War in the Pocket is pretty interesting. Not as good, but it is pretty interesting.
I went straight from Gundam Wing to 8th MS Team. Yeah, because I know this actually, Mobile Suit Gundam originally came out on Toonami between Mobile Suit Gundam. Sorry, Gundam Wing. It went Gundam Wing, Mobile Suit Gundam, 8th MS Team. I somehow missed Mobile Suit Gundam coming out. And then after...
G Gundam.
That was actually on there too. I did see not all of G Gundam. I actually don't know how G Gundam ends. Well, I do exactly know how G Gundam ends. I don't know the big old middle part. But eventually I do want to watch that on the channel at some point. But at some point, I guess after G Gundam, it's either G Gundam or 8th MS Team, whichever was the latest one. I completely forgot Gundam existed and never watched the Gundam series after that until we did the channel stuff. So,
yeah.
And then it was coming back to Iron Blooded Orphans, Gundam 00.
Which I have to watch, yeah.
Hey, if you ever want to rewatch it here, I could give it a second go through because I caught so much hate about all of my takes. Plus, we watched it back before I knew how to properly edit stuff on the channel, so it does some weird, like, glossy format stuff to hide what was going on screen. Plus, didn't have such a good relationship with Bondi Legal as I seem to do now, so I'd be willing to do it again if you want to do it like after something we're currently watching. All right, then. All that said, I guess let's go ahead and hop on into it.
But before we get started,
make sure that you hit the like button,
hit that subscribe button,
comment down below to feed that algorithm.
On top of all that, if you want to watch more shows like this,
unfiltered,
uncensored,
and uncut,
as well as some early access stuff,
you can check it out over on the Patreon.
It's just $5 a month, but hey, no pressure.
There's zero pressure in order to do that. It's just a little bit of extra support, and it would be greatly appreciated.
So actually, one of the last things I remember doing was that Iron Blooded Orphans actually got a side series with a game that had animated cutscenes on it that me and Griff were watching some guys play through. Which was... There's an element of Iron Blooded Orphans backstory, which I think a lot of Gundams have this, where they say something about the past, where it's like, oh, what? Well, that past thing is more interesting than the story you're currently watching.
Yeah.
Well, Gundam 00 has the Solar Wars, which is like wars about them setting up the whole solar power thing that's around the planet. Iron Blooded Orphans isn't really a spoiler, it's just the name of the thing, called the Calamity War. So I just won't tell you what that's about in case we ever do get around to that. The things always, when you start describing them, are more interesting than the timeline that we're currently in.
Yeah.
And the game has to do with that when it regards to Iron Blooded Orphans. It's like, oh, cool. More information on that thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got a lot of hate in my thoughts on the like original Gundam series that we started doing on the channel. Wasn't a fan of Iron Blooded Orphans characters. I think mostly because what I said before, I like the enemies. See, we're no longer doing that previous thing. Operation British is no longer important.
Interesting that both of them have kings.
Oh, I was thinking more that Degwin is the chess piece of a king, because you got the king thing on top of him and he's just sitting down. You could make a chessboard out of it.
Oh, they're still doing Operation British.
Nope. That could have been Loom.
Children. They're children. They're not youthful. They're kids. They're teenagers, for God's sake. Yeah, they're on the young side. Yeah.
Depends, remember? Age of majority in Japan, 16.
Yeah, I know, but still.
So in here, we would say 16 is still a kid. Over there, they'd be deciding to enter the workforce or go to college.
The picture is even bigger now. Well,
it's not a picture, it's a recording.
No, the original picture that came in.
Oh, you mean outside? I'm sorry, I was talking about this, because it was literally right on the screen when you said it.
Do you? Do you have children? You don't have children?
The Zeon people are her children. What are you talking about? I would hate those glasses. You gotta figure they must have a clip over the nose. He's got none of the ear things.
Yeah. Probably falling off out of my nose.
Or it's like the jerk. Your eyes are attracted to it, so you're like this all the time.
I love that movie.
I don't need you. I just need this lamp. And
More
she's still
civilians.
alive.
Yeah, more civilians in the fridge and military functions. Also, he looks shorter and stockier
Remember,
than in Origins.
this has been 7 months. This is what he looks like 7 months later.
Drunken and has, I guess he had a buffet or 5, I mean, not that I can't complain, I haven't hit the gym in years, so.
I mean, look what I looked like 6 years ago when we were doing the recordings of tabletop content. I was so much skinnier. To be fair, though, I had a lot more body parts.
でもただいま大気圏に突入している途中です。ご無理は。
しかし手出しをせずに行き過ぎる男なぞ、お前は嫌いなはずだったな。
Very reminiscent of a scene of Zex on the floor with a bottle of wild turkey. Popular Gundam wing picture.
Yeah. He looks like he's a prisoner almost. Like it's this empty room and he's. Yes, this Haru is not that annoying.
What happened to my eyelids? I don't think wiping the crumbs off on your shirt when you're planning to go back to working on a complicated piece of electronics is the great move.
I don't know. I think it more feels like he started eating and then realized how hungry he was. Like, oh man, I am hungry.
Somebody punch this man. Never mind, he's okay.
I love her. Every scene she's in, I absolutely love her. Shouldn't it be the other way? Never mind.
でしょうね。あなたが中心になる以外ないし、みんな頼りにしているんだから。
とも思えんが。なんだ。
ジオンです。大気圏突入用のカプセルのようですが、大きすぎるようです。
So clearly the bed is built into the room. So I'm just like a little bit uncomfortable with the whole communication device built into the side of the bed.
Oh, you wake up, you go, what's up?
Well, it feels like that Spaceball spoof where the screen is like in the bathroom walls and it's all over your room and...
Yeah. Now her hair is brown. Whoever's animating her hair is having a hard time.
I mean, it's good to use them, see them using a strategy. Even though technically they have a whole space fleet up there, they could be doing this constantly.
ゼオンの新兵器かしら。大丈夫よ。
It's interesting because the people who are space are like, oh, we don't know what this is. When we seen that they have thunder and lightning inside the. Remember that whole discussion in Texas?
The only reason I'm not making a big commentary about this is that I know I have a whole notes section about it next time. Actually, I don't remember Texas having a storm. I remember Texas having rain.
No, but there was lightning
Black
too.
clouds and rain.
It had lightning too.
The problem here is the things that I don't remember, I don't remember. So...
I have a whole discussion how they, the lightning doesn't do damage inside the ship, inside the station.
I don't remember that either.
Yeah.
左舷メインエンジン水力低下。さっきのは聞いてます。
まずいな、こんな時に。ECM。
最大出力で発信しています。
未来、どこかに着陸してやり過ごす。このままではミノフスキー粒子を無駄にするだけだ。できるか。
やってみます。
前方赤外線監視モニター開きます。
Well, to be fair, you don't have to try that hard at landing. At worst, you land harder than you intended to.
Oh, it does damage and then can't take off again.
No, I'm just saying, a crash is still a landing.
Only if you survive it.
Our best landings, we survive. The really bad ones, though, that's just where we get buried.
White base 速度0。
よし、よくやってくれた未来。ガンダム、ガンキャノン、ガンタンク、出撃用意。対空砲火開け。ハムロ、まさかと思ったが、まだこんなところに。おい、ハムロ。
I can see the universe. Or worse yet, because the static on the screen behind it. Go to the light, Carolyn.
This is really a part where I didn't want to slap him either, going strong. I wasn't gonna say anything because it's an emotional part where he's like so hunted that you even can't see his eyes. Like,
yeah, but for me, it's not an emotional; it's an annoyance. As we previously discussed, the things you have to do to survive versus your emotions during the moment. I want a hero I can root for, not the hero that I feel understands me.
やめてください。できます。
本当だな。
はい。
You can't even make food on your own anymore.
ダメかな。
このヘルメットおかしいですよ。苦しいんだ。
Like I said, not that I don't understand that he's going through shit. Completely get that.
Yeah.
All the therapy he could afford when he gets to a Federation base. No, that he can afford. That the Federation can afford. Obviously, for the duty that he's done, I think he could at least, try to attend to him. But he's got to survive to get there. This is my own point.
Yep.
It's not like the Zeon officers care that he's going through shit.
No. Also, the odd decision to use the gun cannon and the Gundam for anti-air operations, when at their core, they're fighter jets. Yeah, but I think they don't have the same firepower as a fighter against larger ships.
I mean, it feels like everything gets ripped apart just the same as everything else, so it's hard to tell.
No, remember a couple episodes back, like, oh, we could take on that if we had like a dozen fighters, we could take on the Gaul, but they decided not to because they only had 2 fighters.
Hey, that's a name we remember. Do you? Do you remember?
Now that you mention it, I'm blanking out on it.
Episode 6 of The Origin. At the bar.
Yeah.
Kozun. He joined the military specifically so he could serve with Ramba, and then Ramba does the whole demotion thing, so he's like, I'm upset with you. But here he is, serving with Ramba like he wanted to.
Yeah.
Akusis, I don't think, was ever anybody, but Kozan was actually there in Origin.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about the kid who joins with the intelligence service.
No, that's
Under
Tachi.
Cecilia. That's Tachi.
The guy who was also in the first episode doing the cargo. So again, I remember shit, so when you tell me shit I don't remember, I'm like, I don't remember that.
ガンダム、ガンキャノン、出撃どうした？ザクは降りているんだぞ。実はアムロが新米の兵隊のよくかかる病気になっているんだ。なんだと？アムロにも出撃させろ。
We may refer to it as PTSD someday, or even shell shock. Or battlefield fatigue syndrome. It's all really the same thing.
Yeah.
Look it up on the internet. There's a really good George Carlin sketch about it. Pretty sure if I just throw him outside of a moving object, he'll get back in it.
Yeah. Well, the shock of it at least worked.
Sorry if we're gonna go that route. Just tell him Chara's out there. Or insult his manhood. That seems to work too.
In fact, not exactly a Saku.
I guess I could share that video with you because it wouldn't be a spoiler for you. The Goof Troop video.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
With the Goofy TV show theme song. Welcome to the Goof Troop. I mean, it does look better than the average Zaku.
As a new weapon too. Seems to be more effective than it.
The whip just doesn't like flow with me that well. But I appreciate it, like in the realm of like axes and shit. It's better than the flail.
Yeah.
Even though they called that thing a hammer.
They find that it can electrify targets, especially if you're trying to capture the Gundam. Yeah, that's a thing that actually, you know, it doesn't matter where it hits, as long as it hits you, it electrifies you.
I don't know when I had the thought, but the thought occurred to me. Tomahawk missiles are a thing right now.
Yeah, but with Minovsky particles, they can be fooled.
Sure, operate them like drones then. Put a camera on the front of the Tomahawk.
Yeah, but you can't get radio communications because of the Minovsky particles.
Rods from God then. Put a telescope, put a telescope and guide a rod from God down. It only has to be aimed for like the first 5 seconds of it, not first 5, even 5 seconds, 5 milliseconds of its firing. Hell, we know they've got intelligent computers. The Gundam is a fucking learning machine. AI that shit.
Yeah.
It's literally a close-range weapon. Also, you've got 2 beam swords.
Yeah, but I think he's going through a sheer adrenaline right now.
Yeah, but we've seen that before.
Yeah.
Remember when he went psycho, attacking like a broken down Zaku on the ground?
And these guys are smart enough to retreat.
Oh man, it's like they went back in time and brought back the Tier 1 Zakus. The better ones. Also, I'm now wondering if you're ahead of me on the timeline. You said at least they're smart enough to retreat, and they only just retreated on mine.
What's that, Mr. Spielberg? I didn't get it. Yes, thank you. Okay, fine.
Solar flare! I mean, it makes sense, because any craft that they've ever been in could be torn apart by, like, the beam sabers. So how do we make it so he doesn't attack the ship?
Also, the fact that they rely on visual sensor for everything makes sense as well.
Wadi wadi wah.
地球連邦に比べ我がジオンの国力は30分の1以下であるにもかかわらず今日まで戦い抜いてこられたのはなぜか諸君我がジオン公国の戦争目的が
The problem is I'm so used to hearing this in English. I'm not prepared for this.
実況放送を世界中に流しているアムロも見ておくんだなはい一握りのエリートが宇宙にまで膨れ上がった地球連邦を支配して54年宇宙に住む我々が自由を要求して何度連邦に踏みにじられたかを思い起こすがいいジオン公国の掲げる人類一人一人の自由のための戦いを神が見捨てるわけはない私の弟諸君らが愛してくれたガルマ・ザビは死んだなぜだ坊やだからさ戦いはやや落ち着いた諸君らはこの戦争を対岸の火と見過ごしているのではないのかマスターそれは
Ah, charred ass.
いいかね親衛隊のものだわかりますか
Presumably this is a Kycelia person
Yeah.
from the previous scene.
ガルマは諸君らの甘い考えを目覚めさせるために死んだ戦いはこれからである
大丈夫
心配かけたようだね大
And your side is too.
ありがとう
諸君の父も兄も連邦の無思慮な抵抗の前に死んでいったのだこの悲しみも怒りも忘れてはならないそれをガルマは死をもって我々に示してくれたのだ我々は今この怒りを結集し連邦軍に叩きつけて初めて真の勝利を得ることができるこの勝利こそ戦死者すべてへの最大の慰めとなる国民を立て悲しみを怒りに変えて
Take your sorrow and turn it into anger. Zeon thirsts for the strength of its people. Sorry. There's also Zeon, by the way. There's words in there that don't get said because it gets split up for other people talking. So that's all I keep waiting for. We must send them a message, but not composed of words. Spoiler alert. Too late. Look, it's my side. You can do your thing whenever you want your side.
Well, my side doesn't have it.
Yeah, well, it's not my fault that, you know, fascism has better speeches.
Well, there's Rebel, and let's leave it at that.
But Rebel's a fucking jerk off. I don't give a shit about. I complained about Rebel the first time I saw him.
敵味方の入り組むところにアムロのふるさとがあった人々の心は冷み母との出会いの中二人にとって不幸が
Now, this is the episode I'm looking forward to, coming home.
アムロにとって安らぎにはならなかった
I have
機動戦士ガンダム再会母よ君は生き延びることができるか
so many notes about that episode, by the way. A lot of them cover one very specific scene, and probably not the scene you're you know how flippant I am, so you might know what scene I'm talking about. But obviously, the end of that episode is also very, as emotional as the Iselina final episode, I would say. But not talking about that one yet because we're not there.
Nope.
I know the full speech that Girin gives. Because one person clipped it from, because obviously you hear it in a lot of these shows. So somebody clipped it all together from a bunch of people from a bunch of different of the Universal Century Gundam shows, all watching it. But then you've also got Andrew WK doing it in English, and that's the one I like. But again, I'm used to hearing it in full. So hearing it here, where it gets broken up by the reaction to people watching it, well, it's good to see the reaction because, we see how they react to it. But again, there's elements in there, like some of my favorite lines. Again, the whole, we need to send them a message, but not with words. Violence, obviously, isn't in there. Because we pan away and we just see other people talking, like Char. That's like the reason I call Char an ass in that scene isn't because of what he's done and all that shit. In that, we're taking away from the speech to see him talking to some dude and like, damn it, fucking Char.
Yeah, well, you got to move the story forward. Char, I think contractually has to be in every episode or every other episode at least.
Something we got to know he's still important and that we're not losing him. Otherwise, the audience that's only watching for Char isn't gonna know another shower scene's coming up or something. Whatever it is. Well, we saw him walking out of the shower in Garma's apartment before.
Yeah. Was it Garma's apartment or was it his own apartment?
No, it was his because Garma was there. Well, I assume it's Garma's apartment. Technically, it's not labeled as anybody's, but he's visiting Garma. So the implication is either Garma is just hanging out in his place or that he's showering in Garma's apartment. And knowing their relationship, as I believe that I do, he's showering in Garma's apartment. But yeah,
Rambla is back, and I always like Rambla.
Incredibly aged.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, he was looking, puffier the last time we saw him.
Yeah.
And he has gotten a lot of face damage over time too. So not incredibly unlikely that anxiety and stress and everything has caused him to become a stress eater or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's more of the face color, not the face color, the hair color and growth. I guess he was implied to be that guy before too. He had the same kind of facial hair and whatnot.
What's weird is that his girlfriend's still with him. In civilian clothing, no less. But there's a story to that.
Well, also my problem is that I've seen so much other Gundam content as to not be put off by that.
Completely shut. Yeah.
Well, I mean that's basically like Waltfeld's girlfriend in Seed. She's just there. As far as I can tell, she's a gymnast. I have no idea what the hell she's doing, but she also was able to pilot a mobile suit, so she's just there with him. Kind of, I guess maybe that's the analog. But yeah, I don't know. It's just to see Ramba again. That's all. Other than that, what else happened other than shooting down White Base and then getting into a fight?
Yeah, I mean,
Amuro went Super Saiyan?
A little bit, but then he wasn't. I mean, it's a shell shock. It's like, I like the fact that this, in any other show, would be like, oh, this is the episode that the character has a downtime, and then he gets out of it. And it's like, oh, I'm back to full power. I learned my lesson. I have to kick ass even harder. He's like, this is fucked up, dude.
Or there was drugs in the sandwich.
Yeah, this is fucked. Well, I don't think
he's paying attention just fine, doing operations on the backup computer of the Gundam. Then he eats a sandwich, pats his stomach wildly, as though he's Alexander the Great being poisoned by one of his generals, and then it's all,
you see that
I see the universe. There was LSD in that sandwich.
Maybe the would-be girlfriend was like, I'm tired of waiting for you, man.
Puts a Spanish fly in your sandwich.
Yeah, which is this anime, and seeing, for us, recent shows. Why did I do this to myself?
To be fair, that was in the tea. And she did give him some Olive. Wow, that's funny. That was in the tea. And then we kept joking about Legend of the Galactic Heroes that there might be something in the tea. Tea is just our go-to. Anyway, I don't know. I mean, literally, he does go from that room, eats a sandwich, and is suddenly in his bedroom. So, you know, he has missing time. Maybe he got roofied. You know, she was jealous of Matilda. And Amuro's a little creepy because he's sniffing up on Matilda's air. You know? Look, I'm just saying that it would not be impossible to Rule 34 this.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, that's just the definition of Rule 34. That it's not impossible to Rule 34 anything.
Yeah. True. But
Again, my whole thing about Amuro's position in this, as I've stated 1,000 times, I feel like I have to keep stating, not for your benefit, but for the audience, that's like, why don't you understand the terrors of war, even though you are clearly a fat American white guy who's never been in war, is the understanding that, sure, we're trying to tell a real story here, a real story about how terrible war is. At the same time, you're also telling a story that you want people to watch. And to want people to watch it, you've got to tell a story with a character you want to see. And Comatose in bed is not the gripping story I feel like you think it is.
It is for me, though. Because it contrasts nicely with a lot of anime heroes in a situation where they at least get that. The minimal they get is like 5 minutes, like, oh man, life sucks, I can't do this. And then somebody gives a speech, or somebody comes in danger, or somebody mentions an enemy, like, oh, Char's out there. Okay, I'm back. Let's go. Right?
I understand where you're coming from, but I also think the problem here is the time. No, it's the time gap. I think I've mentioned to you before, I watch a lot of reactors that watch old movies with younger generational people, and then they complain because they compare it to current stuff, where this is like the first thing that inspired everything that made it better. So even though that newer stuff was made based on and improved upon the older thing, newer people don't have the appreciation for that older thing because they've experienced better. The problem is I come into this with the better experience, right? Newer Gundams do still have, the stress, the emotional damage, and everything like that, but they kind of fit it in better so that you're still interested as a viewer in what's happening while still hoping for the best for the characters that are going through shit. So Amuro is a singular character. We've kind of made it so, why is he important? Because he's the only one who can pilot this thing. So now that he's singularly important, recognized both by the characters in the show and us as the viewer, kind of makes it kind of shitty when the guy we're focusing on isn't representing those emotions as directly as we would prefer to see it on screen. It'd be different if he was, say, crying or expressing those emotions to other characters. Going comatose is not interesting to watch. I mean, I guess apparently it's my point of view, not yours. Going comatose is literally like last episode when we had the zombies on screen and they were like expressing their suffering to one another about Garma's death, and then they just go quiet for like 10 seconds straight, and I do that like, is the thing frozen? Because that's not interesting, but it's funny because it's like, I don't know if the animator died midway through animating the episode. The Monty Python joke. Amuro just sitting there with like static behind him, it paints a good picture. Like, as a still frame, that is an amazing piece of art to show how it's tearing him down inside. But to focus on it, again, it's the difference between the conversation we had about manga and anime. As a still panel in a manga, that would be fucking amazing, and it's up to me how long I focus on it to read into it. As anime, that time is not time that I can decide. You're deciding for me how long to focus on it, and the longer we focus on it, the less impact it has on me, because as a viewer, I value my time. And that time I need to be valued in what I decide to focus on myself. Like, if I'm more interested in what Char is up to, or if I'm more interested in what the zombies are doing during that speech, what's Bright up to on the bridge, clearly freaking out at kids, but Bright is the better example of that. Bright is flipping out on the kids, not because the kids are annoying, not because they're not trying their best. Bright is stressed out by the situation and is exploding on people, and that makes it for a pretty good reaction. That makes it for a pretty good reaction, and we understand what he's going through. Bright talks to people. Bright is not Basara, right, from Across 7. Amuro is Basaring us right now.
Except because later on we have that thing, which I think is very touching, where Frog comes beside him, and he doesn't talk, but it grabs her hand. Like, I appreciate that you're here with me.
That's something.
I like.
Yeah, I appreciate that too, because that is something. But again, focusing on Amuro by himself, doing nothing for longer than, say, 5 seconds, isn't elevating the story, is what I'm saying.
And later he said, like, oh, you don't have to hit me. But he doesn't say in a way of like, oh, you hit me. It's more like, no, I'm fine. Like, there's a part of him who wants to do the thing. And I've been in that situation, but feels incapable of doing it. And I think that's why I sympathize with him. Like, yeah, he wants to go out there. He knows that there's danger, right?
Yeah, that's the difference between Ryu slapping him and Bright slapping him. Bright slapping him feels like an act of aggression. Like, I'm frustrated in your inability to do a thing. Ryu is seeing a boy freezing up. He is trying to wake him back up. It's literally the physical version of, hey, Char's out there. Something to grab your attention to make sure I know you're still in the room, focused on me, doing what needs to. Ryu's is medicinal. Bright's is violent outreach. I don't know what the word here I'm looking for is. Bright's doing it for himself. Ryu is trying to do it for Amuro. At least that's what it feels like.
And again, I mean, this is 1970s. You still have we go to Origins. The relationship we had with his father was also very non-communicative. His father would not communicate with him. It's like, I expected you to clean. What hell you done, right? He's not like, listen, Amuro, I need you to clean because I'm tired. I have to work hard. I'm just going to crack shit for a couple of minutes. Maybe have to go back to work at any moment, right? Amuro is his father's son in that sense, right? Because his father would talk to other people about his genius and all that, and he would feel. But when it came to his son, the few times we have him with son, it's like, why haven't you cleaned?
I've said it a number of times. Amuro's a latchkey kid. I feel like there was conversations between him and his dad because of the number of times that we see his dad talking about Amuro and the future that he wants for him. Like, he has a conversation with Bright in Origin about the number of child soldiers on the front lines and how he doesn't want that for his own kid because he's staring at a picture of Amuro at the time. So I feel like maybe he's not expressive as a father, but they've had moments of at least acknowledgement between the two. Amuro knows to get stuff done when his dad's at home because his dad has talked to him about this before. I feel like it's the unwritten scenes.
But again, we got to go for the rules of the things we do see, right?
Yeah, I know. I break my own rules all the time.
Yeah.
Do as I say, not as I do.
One thing is to tell other people, I care about my son. And another thing is to show it to your own son. Maybe it's because, again, and I get this feeling that the reason why Amuro's dad was like that, the way was he didn't want to burden his son with this weight, right? And unconsciously, that's what Amuro has learned. Do not burden other people with your problems. So when he's afflicted with it, because even he doesn't talk to Frog, it's like, oh, Frog's like, hey, it's like, don't worry about it.
The thing I hate about that the most is that it makes sense.
Yeah. So when he's in a situation like this, he has no outlet because his take on it, this is my failing, this is my problem. I got to deal with it, but I'm a 16-year-old that doesn't know how to deal with this. The
thing is, though, that I don't blame Tem for it either. One thing, if Tem had spent that extra time with Amuro, we know how much time was left in Tem to get all this done. He might not have gotten the Gundam done. And We know Tem was sacrificing his relationship with his son for his son's future, essentially. I'd rather my son live in a world without me, where he was safe, than a world with me, where he's dead, or we're dead, or whatever.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like you never get that time back either. Either way.
We all know the cat's in the cradle. But yeah, no, I mean, I see that as a worthy sacrifice from Tem. Tem's not like a hero, but I guess when it comes to, that's love. I feel like that's still a form of love. I'd rather my son live in a good world than a world with me. And ultimately he does as a result of his son.
Yeah. So there's that. So yeah, that's my take. I like this episode a lot. And it's good to see Rambo back. So it's like, and I like that I like the fact that by reintroducing Rambo, we get a sense that Char is not the only ace around, right? Because other people have done fairly well, survived, but not much. Everyone else, or almost everyone else that goes against Amuro, dies.
Well, we've only seen Ramba and Char operate in the same space once. So, fighting Iron Cavalry on the moon, in which they were in the same unit. And
Char really was the top man, but
Ramba and gang were the top men because they did all the work. Char just shot down the observation thing that launched the Iron Cavalry, and then the other guy was like, "Oh, he's taking all the fun for himself," as though the easiest thing to shoot that didn't fight back was all of the fun. Well, all right. I think that's final thoughts. Once again, I have been Theta. This has been Lessons. We've been Stoneface Reactions, and we will catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another Stoneface Reactions. If you have an idea of another video we could go ahead and watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below, and we'll add it to the wheel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you thought about this video, what parts you liked. And until then, we'll see you next time. Is this too goofy?